Hi again. I often struggle with trying to find the unmute button, so I apologize for that. I am going to review Starfish for the advisor role. So I've been told most faculty received Starfish training last year, so I won't go into too much detail on that now. If you haven't received training or need a refresher, go ahead and reach out to me and we can set up a time and we can go through that together one-on-one. For now, I just want to show you some features many advisors use when working with their students. So as Laura mentioned, Starfish is an option for appointment scheduling. It's a great way students, can reach out virtually without requiring emails back and forth, saves a lot of time. I know in many cases, office hours for faculty are walk-in or virtual walk-in these days, but when it comes to registration advising, it would be helpful to have students schedule appointments so you have a dedicated time just to work with that student. So here's a screenshot of the homepage, or at least this back portion here when you first log in. So you'll notice office hours up here. If you haven't already set these up, it walks you through an add office hours wizard where you can indicate your availability, location, type of appointment, and whatnot right here. As a note, I know most people are doing their office hours are going to be doing virtual advising. In here, you can put in your Zoom link, but it limits you to 100 characters. So you'll need to shorten your Valpo Zoom link. And I've included a link down here that takes you to an article on how to do that. You can also Google it. There's several ways. But once you get all of this, you'll click submit, and that'll take care of that. So the next step, using this little hamburger menu in the corner, you'll use that to select additional preferences. If you've been here before, you're very familiar with this, so I apologize if I'm teaching you things you already know, but I want to make sure for those of you that are new, kind of have a brief overview of what you'll do in here. If you click this little caret here next to your profile and select appointment preferences, you'll be brought to another screen where you indicate further settings. Excuse me. Once on the appointment preferences screen, it opens this highlighted tab up here. You'll be able to designate more locations. There's a calendar manager. You can kind of set up a deadline for when you want students to schedule for the next day. In my case, I kind of cut off my next day's appointments at 3 p.m. So that way at 3, I kind of knew what my next day was going to look like, but you can kind of do this entirely based on your preference. If you click over to this tab on the right, the email notifications, you'll be asked how you want to receive notifications of appointments scheduled. We recommend keeping all of these options checked here, just so that an appointment activity on your calendar sends an update to your external non-Starfish calendar. So you'll want to be sure to connect your Valpo Google Calendar here. This little link provides further instructions on how to do that through Google. Then you'll notice down here summary emails and tracking notifications. So since these are screenshots, I'm not actually scrolling down, but the next slide kind of gives you a little more detail on that. If you look here so that you can receive summary emails, I'd recommend selecting a daily summary. I always got mine at 9 in the morning. It shows me my tracking items for all the students in the past 24 hours. Otherwise, you'll kind of be bombarded with emails throughout the day. Now, if you only have a small group of advisees, that might be fine to receive those emails. When I was advising, I had 275 advisees. So getting notifications one by one kind of took up a big chunk of my inbox. So you can select to receive either daily or weekly summary of tracking items for students. You can also set immediate emails. So for me, I just did it if there was something that was assigned to me that I needed to follow up on more immediately, just send those right away. Don't wait for the summary email. And then down here, there's a lot of different flags. So you'll get emails in your summary of various flags for students. Those that are indicated here with the exclamation point, these will bypass any settings you have up here. So you'll receive an immediate email if a student raises their hand that they need help, or if they're in danger of failing, just because those require more of an immediate response. So since we talked about flags, I want to quickly go over best practices for advisors. First, we'll review what can be expected from instructors. So with you being in both roles, I know you've seen the faculty side of things. In many cases, when an instructor raises a flag, a student will want to work directly with their instructor in order to remedy whatever it is that initiated that flag. So those flags are listed here. That doesn't mean that an advisor can't check in, but the main conversation would likely have to go through the instructor so they can discuss expectations and how to move forward in their class. And typically, if an advisor does follow up, they go to that first line of defense and say, you know, have you reached out to your instructor to talk about your absences, or if there's ways that you can make up any work that you missed. Now, all flags are useful for advisors when they meet with students and can help direct conversation, but the flags listed here are a priority, meaning an advisor should reach out right away when they see one of these flags come through. And it helps the advisors to not just see the flag, but to also have a note from the instructor so they have a better sense of what's going on before they reach out to a student. So because you're faculty, I'm also preaching to you here that. So if you put up a flag for a student, try to include a line with just a little bit more information that as an advisor you would want so that you can, you know, start that conversation with the student. So now that we know flags require more immediate attention, you'll want to take action. So when we're in Starfish as a faculty member, you'll see a lot of students initially. If you want to filter it down to just your advisees, you can use this connection little drop-down menu here. You can even filter it further with this little add filters button over here. In this case, I just wanted to see students that had tracking items or flags, just so I didn't have a full list of students. Once you filter out this, I had to remove them from this just for privacy, but down here will be your list of students after you filter that. So then if you click on their name, it will pull you up to their profile. And again, I blocked out information on this student is their name. But this is what you'll see back here is kind of their student profile. Initially, you'll be at the overview tab, but you'll want to click on the tracking tab to the left, and it will pull up their various tracking items, including flags, kudos, to-dos, and things like that. But we're going to take a look at how you can follow up on a flag. So if you hover over one of those orange little flags there, it will pull up this little box where you can add a comment. Once you click that, a pop-up will appear for you to enter a note. So use this as a way to reach out to the student, include whatever note you want on here if you want them to set up an appointment to meet with you, or if you just kind of want to nudge them to reach out to the professor, do that. And then make sure that you check this box here. It says send copy of note to student. So it will send them an email. We like to think that students are on Starfish. They are not on it as much as they are their email. So emailing it to them kind of triggers that or either a response from the student to schedule with you, or they see it more easily. You can also decide if you want to send a copy to yourself. I would sometimes keep them on file just for easy access, but you can also send a copy to the flag raiser. So in this case, the instructor, just to let them know you've been in contact with the student. All right, another type of note you can add would be advising notes. So if you're coming in a Starfish fresh, and I have your list of students, you'll just click on their name. Like I said, it'll pull up this menu here, be in the overview screen. Up at the top here, you have where you can add a note. There are several different types of notes that you can add, and they include a brief description, so you can decide what to use. But in this case, if we're wanting to add an advising note, you'll select that here, enter the subject, and then as just an example for a biology student, put the courses that we discussed for spring semester. You'll want to send a copy of this note to the student so they have easy access when it comes time for them to register. This also saves to their profile. So if they lose the email or forget what you discussed, you'll be able to review it with them or re-email it to them. Also down here, whenever you're creating a note, it will show you who is going to be able to view that note. So just keep that in mind as you're adding notes. So things to think about, most being common sense, but good to review. Assume others will read the notes that you're putting in there. Make sure the information is clear, especially because this is a communication for various areas of campus. So if you're including a note on a student, you want to make sure that whoever is reading it on the other end understands what you're saying. And then make sure that it's something that will benefit the student. So we're not putting opinions in here or anything like that. We're putting in facts and information that will be helpful for others to know about the student. Wanted to quickly mention, Laura mentioned it earlier, but the intake form. It's new, it hasn't been rolled out to students yet. We're finishing up edits and are hoping to have it up and running prior to registration advising. But the intake form is a way to collect qualitative information from our students so we can better help them. It includes things like asking for their pronoun if they want to share it, if they're working in addition to going to school and how many hours, if they have post-valpo goals that we'll need to be mindful of when we're helping them create a plan of study. So some of the questions will allow us to filter our student list so we can narrow down communications. Going back to when I was advising, it will be helpful to be able to pull pre-med students. So using this form, we'll be able to kind of filter out, and it'll be a helpful tool, like if we're just wanting to send information to a specific group of our students. Finally, just a few resources to share if you have questions about Starfish. If you need a quick video training, you can do that through our Starfish website, valpo.edu/starfish. There's some training videos and more detailed how-to guides there. If you are familiar with Starfish but you run into any trouble, go ahead and email starfish@valpo.edu. Those come to me and also a team of us so we can try to help you troubleshoot any problems you're having. Excuse me, and if you need one-on-one training or a refresher, or you're brand new to Starfish and you have had no idea what I've been talking about for the last 10 minutes, send me an email and we will set up a time to go through that together. All right, does anybody have questions? I'm gonna look over here. I know that there's been some chatting going on while I've been talking.